time, all together. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances of Lord Srila Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to our morning Bhagavatam class. This morning we will be actually discussing from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 2, verse 22, and the chapter is entitled Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The class will be given by His Grace Dronacharya Prabhu from ISKCON, Philadelphia. Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances of Lord Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev.
Jai. Please accept my humble obeisances. Our glories to Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada. Good morning, Harrisburg family. It's great.
We have devotees rolling in slowly because of the late Nishringa Chaturdasi, but they'll slowly join us.
I'm feeling it too. I hope everybody had a wonderful, wonderful festival.
Yes.
It was, did you celebrated it yesterday?
Yesterday.
Yesterday, okay, we did too. A lot of people it looked like it fell on a Saturday.
Because you know what? I think there was an overlap with the Tithi. Because I was going to do it on a Saturday. Then I said, wait, that's a switch. And I had to change it on a Sunday. I think it was the house zone.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah, in fact, there was a lot of confusion about this one. So yeah, but we did it yesterday as well in Philadelphia. So I'm glad you had a very wonderful festival.
Yeah.
We had, I mean, it was almost like a pre-COVID experience
for us too.
I mean, the number of people that came out, and
yes,
we didn't have parking. Nice. I mean, everybody's, where do we park? I was like, we haven't had this problem in a long time.
It's getting better for us, little by little, slowly, hopefully.
But it was really encouraging to see the number of devotees coming forward and coming together,
absolutely,
chanting together, spending time together. That was very special. I'm glad
the Sangha and the service, everything.
And the Shinga Chaturdashi is always a special festival.
It is. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially for devotees, following this path. Sometimes like your general, like Hindu person that may come to the temple just for their knowledge of Krishna or Ram, they may not know so much about Shinga Avatar, Shinga Dev, and why the Lord would manifest himself as a half man, half lion. So for them to learn about that and understand that's really good.
Nice.
We had Bhakta Brett. He's here on the phone. He was with us. He came to Philadelphia.
Oh, nice, wonderful.
We were dancing together during the kirtan.
Wonderful. I was wondering where he ran away. Now I know he ran away to Philly, so that's good. Wonderful, great.
That was really sweet. Really sweet. Okay, we'll chant a little bit.
Yes.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Nitai Gauranga, 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 Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hari. 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Bo. Hare Bo, Hare Bo, Nitai Gora, Hare Bo, Hare Bo, Hare Bo, Hare Bo, Nitai Gora, Hare Bo, Nitai Gora, Hare Bo, Hare Bo, Hare Bo, Nitai Gora, Hare Bo, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashotara Shishimad's Divine Grace. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashotara Shishimad's Divine Grace. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Maharaj Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnavarinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Skoho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Grantaraj Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. All glories the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories, the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Niti Namani Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Sharadmane Shri Guru Purna Shakti Tirtha Namane Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vicharini Vishesha Shinnivari Paschate Deshatani. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we're reading from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 2, text 22. Seita Govinda Sakshat Chaitanya Goshani Jivan Nishtarite Ache Dayulo Aranai. Seita Govinda Sakshat Chaitanya Goshani Jivan Nishtarite Ache Doyala Aranai. Seita Govinda Sakshat Chaitanya Goshani Jivanishtarite Ache Dayalo Aranai. Synonyms. Seita, that. Govinda, Govinda. Sakshat, personally. Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya. Goshani, Goshani. Jiva, the fallen living entities. Nishtarite, to deliver. Aiche, such. Duyalu, a merciful Lord. Ara, another. Nai, there is not. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. That Govinda personally appears as Chaitanya Goswami. No other Lord is as merciful in delivering the fallen souls. Purport. Having described Govinda in terms of his Brahman and Paramatma features, now the author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita advances his argument to prove that Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the identical personality. The same Lord Sri Krishna, in the garb of a devotee of Sri Krishna, descended to this mortal world to reclaim the fallen human beings who had misunderstood the personality of Godhead, even after the explanation of the Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, directly instructs that the Supreme is a person, that the impersonal Brahman is his glowing effulgence, and the Paramatma is his partial representation. All men were therefore advised to follow the path of Sri Krishna, leaving aside all mundane isms. Offenders misunderstood this instruction, however, because of their poor fund of knowledge. Thus, by his causeless, unlimited mercy, Sri Krishna came again as Sri Chaitanya Goswami. The author of Chaitanya Charitamrita most emphatically stresses that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Sri Krishna himself. He is not an expansion of the Prakash or Vilas forms of Sri Krishna. He is the Swayam Rupa, Govinda. Apart from the relevant scriptural evidence forwarded by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, there are innumerable other scriptural statements regarding Lord Chaitanya being the Supreme Lord himself. The following examples may be cited. And there's a list of them here, I think. There's a bunch of them. So we'll go through them one by one so we can all hear and understand. From the Chaitanya Upanishad 5, Gur Sarvatma Mahapurusha Para Mahatma Mahayogi Trigunatai Sattvarupa Bhakta Bhaktim Loke Kashati. Lord Gora, who is the all-pervading supersoul, the supreme personality of Godhead, appears as a great saint and powerful mystic who is above the three modes of nature, and it is the emblem of transcendental activity. He disseminates the cult of devotion throughout the world. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to read the English going forward through here. From the Svetasvatar Upanishad 6.7 and 3.12, it stated, "O my Lord, you are the supreme Maheshwara, the worshipable deity of all the demigods and the Lord of all lords. You are the controller of all controllers, the personality of Godhead, the Lord of everything worshipable. That supreme personality of Godhead is Mahaprabhu, who disseminates transcendental enlightenment. Just to be in touch with him is to be in contact with the indestructible Brahma Jyoti." From the Mukunda Upanishad 3.1.3, "One who sees the golden-colored personality of Godhead, the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Actor, who is the source of the Supreme Brahman, is liberated." From the Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5, 33, 34, and 7.9, 38. "We offer respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of him, the Lord, upon whom one should always meditate. He destroys insults to his devotees. He removes the distress of his devotees and satisfies their desires. He, the abode of all holy places and the shelter of all sages, is worshipable by Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. He is the boat of the demigods for crossing the ocean of birth and death. We offer our respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Lord, upon whom one should always meditate. He left his householder life, leaving aside his eternal consort, whom even the denizens of heaven adore. He went to the forest to deliver the fallen souls, who were put into illusion by material energy. And this is relevant from Sri Prahlad from yesterday. I mean, this is timely. My Lord, you kill the enemies of the world in your multifarious incarnations, in the families of men, animals, demigods, rishis, aquatics, and so on. Thus you illuminate the world with your transcendental knowledge. In the age of Kali, O Mahapurush, you sometimes appear in a covered incarnation. Therefore, you are known as Tri-Yuga, one who appears in only 3 yugas. From the Krishna Yamala Tantra, Punya Kshetre Navadvipe Bhavishami Sachi Sutta. I shall appear in the holy land of Navadvip as the son of Sachi Devi. From the Vayu Purana, in the age of Kali, when the Sankirtan movement is inaugurated, I shall descend as the son of Sachi Devi. From the Brahma Yamala Tantra, sometimes I personally appear on the surface of the world in the garb of a devotee. Specifically, I appear as the son of Sachi in Kali Yuga to start the Sankirtan movement. From the Ananta Samhita, the Supreme Person, Sri Krishna himself, who is the life of Sri Radharani, and is the Lord of the universe in creation, maintenance, annihilation, appears as Gura, O Maheshwari. Om Aganati Barandasha Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umiliyatam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Swapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Chakopatarubhyascha Kripasindhuvyeva Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. That Govinda personally appears as Chaitanya Goswami. No other Lord is as merciful in delivering the fallen souls. Srila Prabhupada in the purport gives plenty of references to Lord Chaitanya being none different than the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, and gives many references throughout different scriptures. This is important to us because oftentimes, and as mentioned in this purport here, that Lord Chaitanya is sometimes not necessarily considered to be Krishna. It's hard for those that rely on their own intellectual understanding. Although if you apply your intellectual understanding according to Krishnadas Kaviraj, that you will come to the conclusion that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the eternal shelter of all the fallen souls. However, sometimes due to our misunderstandings, we we think, oh, well, Chaitanya, he must have been a great saint, an acharya, empowered being. But God, no, he wasn't Krishna. Because he came as a devotee. And oftentimes he would, and almost all the time, unless he was just a few times he was in private with his devotees, that he actually revealed himself as Krishna. But when sometimes his associates and sometimes, disciples and followers would say, we think that you are, that same Supreme Lord, he would cover his ears, and he wouldn't have it. He denied it. Why? Because his main mission in coming as a covered incarnation, as a devotee of himself, was to set the example and exhibit how one should actually perform pure loving devotional service. And that is the mercy and compassion of a devotee, is that they exhibit, they engage directly through body, mind, and spirit and soul to serve the Supreme Lord with all their with everything that they have. And so there has to be those two elements. There has to be the lover and the beloved. The supreme, the subject and the object. So Krishna is the subject, his devotees are the object. Krishna is Krishna is the beloved, and his devotees are the lover. And Krishna is the master. You could say Krishna is the master, the devotees are the servants. Now, the supreme object of affection is Srimati Radharani. She is the topmost of all the devotees, of all the bhaktas, and she alone can understand Krishna's innermost feelings, and what makes Krishna feel the ultimate joy, the highest form of pleasure. She satisfies Krishna's desires at the highest level. But Krishna wanted to understand, what is it about myself that Radharani is able to experience? So he wanted to feel that. In order to understand that, he had to actually put himself in a position of enjoying from her perspective, from the perspective of a pure devotee. And then in that way, distribute, not just feel it within himself, but due to the compassion of the devotee. Because the devotee, what is their innermost desire? It's to please Krishna. And what is pleasing to Krishna? Bringing all the people that have left Krishna's presence and are now an illusion back to the service of Krishna. They say for a devotee, they're the only type of suffering they know is one, to be in separation from the service of Krishna and the association of other devotees, and then to see the suffering of other conditioned souls, paradukkha dukhi. So in order to reclaim those fallen souls, Krishna uses his devotees who have this heart of compassion to bring them back to Krishna's service and to attract their minds. Krishna actually comes himself as his devotee and demonstrates personally how to actually perform this devotional service. In that way, Krishna is, and this is an important point, oftentimes not always understood. Sometimes we say that Lord Chaitanya was an incarnation of Krishna that appeared in Kali Yuga. And as mentioned by Srila Prabhupada in this purport, that actually Lord Chaitanya is not an expansion or an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. He is the original Supreme Lord. He is the Swayam Rupa, Govinda. We hear about the Das Avatars, the Matsya Avatar, Kurma Avatar. We hear about the Shringa Avatar, which we celebrated yesterday, Ram Avatar, the Kalki Avatar, Buddha, and then we know about the various, we have Shakyavesha avatars. So these are empowered incarnations that are not necessarily of the Vishnu Tattva, but Jiva Tattva, but Krishna empowers them to act on behalf of the Supreme Lord. And there are a great number of those. And then we hear about the different Guna avatars, Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. They're here to represent the different modes of passion and ignorance, and goodness, maintenance, destruction, and creation. And then we have the different expansions of the different Vishnus, Karnadakshaya Vishnu, Mahavishnu, and Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And we have Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. And this basically helps the material, this in turn allows the material world to unfold and manifest, all for the purpose of housing the conditioned souls who want to be able to live a life separate from Krishna and his eternal realm. So sometimes it's this is another Yuga Avatar. When the Lord comes, he says he comes in every Yuga, in order to to reestablish principles of religion, to deliver the pious, and to annihilate the miscreants. So the Lord comes every Yuga. So sometimes, he's the Yuga Avatar. But we should know that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not different than Krishna himself. He has simply changed his color and changed his mood. He is that non-different Supreme Lord. And he showed this to Ramananda Roy, where he exhibited that actually he is not different than Govinda and Radharani. And there's a beautiful picture of them sitting on the Gandavi River. He's instructing Ramananda Roy. He exhibits this. Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahayanya. That Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not different than Radha Krishna. But he doesn't appear in that blackish form. He appears in a golden form. Why? Because that is the color of Srimati Radharani. So in order to have that mood, to understand what exactly she is feeling, what is it that she is tasting? What is it about himself that he can't quite understand, that enchants Srimati Radharani and all the other devotees he wanted to exhibit? So therefore, appearing as his devotee in the complexion of his most beloved Srimati Radharani, he sets off to liberate the whole entire world and bring them back under his eternal service. Now this is stated. So this is stated in the next chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the external reasons for the Lord's appearance. And I'm just going to read a couple verses from that, which will give enhancement to the verse that we read today. At the end of the Dwapara Yuga, at the 28th Divya Yuga, Lord Krishna appears on earth with his full paraphernalia and his eternal Vraja Dham. So once in a day of Lord Brahma, which is 4,320,000,000 years, 4,320,000,000 years is one day in Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma lives 100 years. But once in a day of Lord Brahma, in the 28th Divya Yuga, Lord Sri Krishna descends. So it's a very rare occurrence. So Srila Prabhupada, he explains it that so far in the day of Brahma, 1,975,320,000 years have passed. So roughly halfway through, little less than halfway through one day of Brahma, Lord Krishna descends. Now, when he descends, this is not an avatar. He actually descends himself as the Swayam Rupa, Swayam Bhagavan. You know, that original, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. You know, he descends and he brings along with him all of his eternal realm of Vraj Bhumi. And then he says, right after that, in the next Kali Yuga after that, he descends as his devotee in order to make accessible the Leela and teachings that he exhibited when he came as Govinda just shortly in the Yuga previously. Servitude, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love are the four transcendental mellow rasas by which the devotees cherish these four mellows. Lord Krishna is subdued. Absorbed in such transcendental love, Lord Krishna enjoys Vraj with his devoted servants, friends, parents, and conjugal lovers. Lord Krishna enjoys his transcendental pastimes as long as he wishes, and then he disappears. After disappearing, however, he thus thinks, "For a long time I have not bestowed unalloyed loving devotion to me upon the inhabitants of the world. Without such loving attachment, the existence in this material world is useless." So there he explains that he descends directly after that in order to what? Bestow unalloyed loving service to me, Krishna, onto the inhabitants of this world. And then he says, unless one actually has this, this is useless. So in this purport, let me read a couple more of these, then we'll explain something from the purport. Everywhere in this world, people worship me according to scriptural injunctions. But simply by following such regulative principles, one cannot attain the loving sentiments of the devotees of Brajabhumi. Knowing my opulence, the whole world looks upon me with awe and veneration. But devotion is made feeble by such reverence, does not attract me. So he's basically saying this mood of awe and reverence isn't what really will capture his heart. By performing such regulated devotional service in awe and reverence, one may go to Vaikuntha and attain the four kinds of liberation. In other words, one can actually perform devotion with the mood of attaining liberation, becoming freed from the entanglements of this material world. Oftentimes we may hear this, and we often may also become very attracted to it. We don't want to come back to this material world again. We want to go back to Godhead. We hear about it all the time. Oh, another day of suffering, another day of frustration, oh my gosh, another problem. Just get me out of here. We want liberation, right? And we see devotional service as a pathway for our liberation. But Lord Chaitanya is telling us that there's actually something greater, that if we tap into that something greater than liberation, liberation will naturally follow. But actually we can develop our eternal love for Krishna and experience what true life is. Sometimes we say, we got to keep it real. But really what we're saying is we got to keep it an illusion, because the life that we're living right now is an illusion. Keeping it real, Lord Chaitanya is telling us, actually, the reality is that we have an eternal connection, eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord. And that is accessible to us if we follow in his footsteps. So this is where we get to in the purport, when Srila Prabhupada now he says that, in order to, the same Lord Sri Krishna, in the garb of a devotee of Lord Krishna, descends to this mortal world to reclaim the fallen living beings who have misunderstood the personality of Godhead, even after the explanations of Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita being the main list of instructions, teachings that Krishna left behind when he descended during that Dwarpa Yuga of the 28th Divya Yuga of the one day of Brahma, which established many things. His supremacy, the personal form of the Lord, that one, in order to develop one's loving relationship with Krishna, they have to abandon all varieties of religion and surrender unto him. And that can be done by Mamana Bhava Mad Bhakto, by becoming his devotee and serving him. Mam Yaji Mam Namaskaru, by worshiping him, falling down before him, offering one's obeisances and homages unto him, by always thinking of him, Mam Mana, so basically separating ourselves from all our material attachments, all our various responsibilities attached to this world, and basically dedicating our lives fully and wholly to the Supreme Lord. Not necessarily neglecting our duty, but understanding that our duty ultimately is to serve the Supreme Lord. And by doing so, everything else will be fulfilled. This message, however, didn't really get through to too many people. One, surrender is a hard thing to do. And then not understanding properly what that means. There's so many various explanations and teachings that have come out that have been misconstrued from Krishna's original teachings. Srila Prabhupada, as passed down through the Guru Parampara from Lord Shri Krishna, has given us the Bhagavad Gita, and what did he title it? As It Is. And why did he have to title it As It Is? Because there are so many interpretations and explanations, as he mentions here, that got misunderstood. So there's many Bhagavad Gitas as they are not, that describe that, Krishna was just a great person, or that you don't have to surrender to the Krishna himself, but just the, what do they say? The kind of the impersonal spirit beyond Krishna. That Krishna was really just a person. And Krishna even predicts this in the purport. He says, fools will deride me when I descend in this human form, thinking me to be, just kind of a temporary body. So many impersonal and Mayavadi level realizations have come, from this. The teachings of Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, if they are understood directly as they are, as Krishna taught them, yes, then one can actually, it is actually sufficient to understand and fix one's mind and intelligence completely on the Supreme Lord. However, if it's misunderstood, one will not get the true meaning. So in order to show the world how to actually exhibit the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, he comes as his devotee. And he brings with him his personal associates. And when they come, they don't come as he's come in the form of a devotee. They also come in the forms of various devotees, even though they are various expansions of himself And then also various demigods, etc., have also come in the forms of servants, of devotees. And now it is stated that demigods in this age of Kali, in order to understand this supreme mercy of the Supreme Lord, they're actually in line waiting to take birth in the form, in the womb of devotees, in order to be able to actually experience what Lord Chaitanya has now offered. And what has he offered? Actually, what no other form of the Supreme Lord or any other incarnation has ever offered. Unalloyed devotional service, pure bhakti, that is not intertwined with awe and reverence, that is not, but on the spontaneous level, which is only found by those that associate with Krishna in the eternal realm of Vrajbhumi. He is now making access to that available to all the inhabitants of this world. So that is something extremely, extremely special. When we talk about, have we hit the lottery? We have hit the lottery. There are many Yuga Avatars. There are many Kali Yuga Avatars. And what do they come for? They come to reestablish the principles of religion. They establish Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the Lord's holy names. And Krishna said, and Lord Chaitanya says, he says, I shall personally inaugurate the religion of the age, the Yuga Dharma, Nam Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the holy name. And I shall make the world dance in ecstasy, realizing the four mellows of loving service. I shall accept the role of a devotee, and I shall teach devotional service by practicing it myself. Unless one practices devotional service himself, he cannot teach it to others. This is the conclusion confirmed throughout the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the difference between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the other Kali Yuga avatars that have come to spread the Sankirtan movement is this: I shall make the world dance in ecstasy, realizing the four mellows of loving devotional service. Now, this is where we have to understand here something that you may say, we may say, this is where we get caught up, well, this level of bhakti is very, very rare. In fact, we're not even necessarily often taught this because it can be very much misconstrued. What are we recommended to perform? We're recommended to perform sadhana bhakti or vaidhi bhakti, regulated devotional service. The level of spontaneous devotional service, if talked about, isn't necessarily talked about so much to the extent where we're encouraged necessarily to necessarily practice it. Why? Because we tend to be very unregulated people. Our attachments to this material world, our association with the modes of material nature, our lack of commitment, our minds take us from one place to another. Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? Will this bring me happiness? Will this take me away? What should I, we get so caught up that in order to basically break our attachments and regain our attraction, that the path of Krishna consciousness is the path I should be traveling on, we have to be able to regulate ourselves. And the process that we are ultimately to follow through our sadhana is the process of Sankirtan, is the congregational chanting of the holy names. All the various devotional services that are associated with Sankirtan can also be considered Sankirtan. Learning the scriptures, serving the deity, associating, and connecting with the devotees. However, the ultimate, the religion of this age, which is to deliver us, is Sankirtan, the Sankirtan movement. And by performing this Sankirtan for the pleasure, following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even by doing it through the process of Vaidhi Bhakti, we are serving the topmost Ragatmika Bhakta, or the devotee that is in rapture, in full connection of their loving devotional mood, which is Srimati Radharani. So by serving Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even in the mood of Vaidhi Bhakti, we are serving the supreme devotee, Srimati Radharani. And in doing so, the devotional service actually takes on a different category. And gradually, through the mercy of the spiritual master in service to Srimati Radharani, that love will grow and mature. When our attachments to this material world start to fall off, and we know no one but Krishna is our Lord, that devotional service will then begin to mature. The mood to exhibit the four mellows of devotional service: servitude, parental, friendship, and then conjugal lover. The jiva soul can only truly understand in the mood of Vaidhi Bhakti that one is a servant of the Lord. We're das anudas. To understand that we're anything different than that, actually, there's another element that has to enter in, and that is Yoga Maya. So in our current condition, we can truly only understand and experience this mood of dasya. By the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srimati Radharani, Yoga Maya can only be the agency that allows one to understand parental affection, friendship, or equality. How can one be the parent of the Supreme Lord? Because on the parental level, there is no equality. We can't, on the servitor level, there's no equality. There is the master, and then there is the servant. On the level of friendship, there is equality. So how can anyone who understands that there is no equality, that one is the servant and one is the master, come to the point of equality? That element has to be removed. That is only removed to enhance that relationship with the Supreme Lord. But it can only be entrusted and understood and realized and granted to a person who is first free from the contaminations of their false ego. And then going further to one where one is the parent. Now it's not even a point of equality. Now the roles are completely reversed, where one is, the parent is now above the child. And to actually think oneself as the caretaker of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord, who is actually our eternal Father, the Supreme Father who's given birth and creation to all this. Now to actually understand that we're actually the caretaker of the child. Again, that element, that covering. Now this covering is only there to enhance the relationship, not to, but if tried to be understood prematurely, we all want to be superior through our conditioned nature. And in that conditioned nature, if one would actually think that okay, I'm actually the controller of God. I mean, what would happen? We already think that we're God. So again, that can't be understood unless one actually goes through the process of sadhana bhakti. And of course, even higher to the point of conjugal love with the Lord. So this is the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is the actual great fortune that we are in. This is the gift that we have, that the pathway, not just for liberation, and the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Nectar of Devotion makes this very clear, that liberation is simply just a byproduct of understanding when one is in contact with pure, loving devotional service. And that is the goal. And we are actually at a point in time when this has been made available, this access has been made available. And in the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, following in the footsteps of his devotees, which will ultimately lead us into the footsteps of the devotees of Braj Bhumi, the eternal land of Lord Krishna, those that actually give the most pleasure to Krishna, by rendering devotional service, freeing ourselves from the contaminations of this world. And then in that loving mood of Srimati Radharani, which Lord Chaitanya has exhibited, going out and trying to touch as many lives as we can, by getting them to chant the Lord's holy names, giving up their material attachments, and surrendering unto the Supreme Lord. We will bring, immense joy and pleasure to the spiritual master, Srimati Radharani, and ultimately to Krishna. Okay, we'll stop here. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for giving a wonderful class on this amazing verse. And as you were reading the verses, the purport, and towards, and the different quotes from different Puranas about the appearance of Lord Chaitanya was just goosebumps. It was like predicted, it was just goosebumps. So it's so amazing. Thank you so much for really shedding more light on this, powerful verse. We'd like to ask devotees if any questions, any comments, any clarification, please do raise your hand or jump right in and ask your question. I have a question, if you could just clarify or shed some light, Dronacharya, and I'm looking for the verse. This one that says, in the age of Kali, O Mahapurusha, you sometimes appear in a covered incarnation. Therefore, you're known as Three Yuga, one who appears in only 3 yugas. And we know that there are 4 yugas. Can you shed some light on that, please?
Yeah. So because he comes as his devotee in some of these, so in this particular yuga, the one that appears directly after Krishna descends from Braj Bhumi, the one that happens once in a day of Brahma. In this particular special Kali Yuga, he appears as a covered incarnation, as his devotee, in order to inaugurate the Sankirtan movement. Now, the Sankirtan movement happens in every Kali Yuga. So there are many, many, thousands of Kali Yugas that happen in the day of Brahma. But one of them happens to be extremely special, just like one of those Dwapara Yugas happens to be very, very special. Now, in other of the Kali, so in the fact that it's coming as a devotee, it's oftentimes covered. So when Vishnu appears in various forms, it's not really a covered incarnation, because he's coming, he's destroying the demons, he's doing activities that are what we consider miracles to modern, to people. He's lifting hills. He's coming out of the ocean and lifting the universe. He's doing all of these miraculous activities. But what we see with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's come in the form of a devotee in the mood of service, in the mood of service of Lord Sri Krishna. So in that way, it's oftentimes either misunderstood and not recognized who he really is. But when we see what he's actually giving, is actually the highest benediction that no other incarnation has ever given. And that is, teaching pure devotional service and making it available to everyone. Where previously it was only made available to those special souls in Sri Braj Bhumi. Now he's made it available to all of us. So we have to be able to take it. We have to be able to, travel down this path and free ourselves from our material disease and receive this special gift.
Thank you. That was very nicely explained. Thank you so much, Dr. Acharya. And I also, before I ask my next question, I was going to ask if devotees have any questions, please. I know we just passed the hour. Just want to make sure that I don't ignore or don't forget anybody. If you have any questions or comments or clarification on those that are on this call. What I would like to ask, Dronacharya, if you could repeat, I think there was one point you were referring to a verse where it says that full mellows of devotional service, I think. Can you repeat that again? That was really powerful.
Yeah. So he mentions it several times. He says here, I shall personally inaugurate the religion of the age, Nam Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the holy name. I shall make the world dance in ecstasy, realizing the four mellows of loving devotional service.
Wow.
So in that, he explains that he's not, and he's already, and just previous to that, he's saying, I'm not interested in actually just basically people stopping at the point of just understanding that I am God and God is great. Obviously, that is the first step. But in this particular instance, Lord Krishna, in the mood of Srimati Radharani, wants to actually, in the mood of his devotee, wants to actually have the world experience, while performing the Sankirtan movement, the four mellows of loving devotional service. And then he defines that as the Dasya, Vatsala, the Madhurya, what's Sakya, and Sakya. Sakya is the friendship. To be able to relish and to understand that, and there's a process, as we described, to be able to do it. You can't just jump into it, but we don't want to lose track of this. It all starts with this sadhana bhakti, but it doesn't basically end in liberation for the devotee. It becomes more mature because our devotional service is being performed following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is in the mood of Srimati Radharani, the highest, say, ragatmika bhakta, which means that devotee who is actually experiencing the highest ecstasy, and is she has no understanding that Krishna is actually the Supreme Lord. She only knows Krishna as her beloved, she fights with, and she loves, and they have these various leelas with one another, and they're mad at each other, and then they come together, and then they're serving each other, and they're trying to, their love for each other allows the element of love to continue to increase. As Srimati Radharani begins to serve Krishna more, Krishna becomes more pleased and loves Srimati Radharani. She becomes more attractive, and then Krishna becomes more attractive. Then Krishna becomes more attractive because he falls deeper in love with Srimati Radharani and wants to please her. And then when Radharani sees that, she wants to outdo Krishna. And that way, their love continues to grow and expand, and there's no limit to that. And to be able to enter into that world is what Lord Chaitanya is opening that door to us. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. It's beautifully said and beautifully explained, Dronacharya. Thank you. It's very, very sweet. Thank you so much. If
His
there are no
Holiness, I will say this.
Tell me.
His Holiness Varshana Maharaj, he really describes this in great detail. I've listened to several classes of his, and he, unfortunately, I don't think I can do that justice. But I mean, and his Holiness Bhakti True Maharaj also, he's spoken about this as well, just how this element of performing Vaidhi Bhakti to Lord Chaitanya actually takes on a different, is different than Vaidhi Bhakti that we often hear about in just kind of the scriptures and just surrender and worship. This particular, in the mood of the Sankirtan movement, as given in the mood by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is actually in a different category because it's leading us onto the path of Raganuga Bhakti.
So beautifully said, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Yeah, Bhakti Swami and Varshana Swami, and Varshana Swami's mood is so sublime and peaceful and sweet that when he gives a class, it's so sweet. It just draws you into it. It just draws you into it. That was a nice one. Thank you for sharing that. If devotees don't have any more questions to ask, just a humble reminder that we have our Bhagavad Gita circle reading this evening at 6:00, and we are just starting getting into the chapter 7, which is entitled The Knowledge of the Absolute Truth. So please do join us this evening at 6:00. Until then, thank you so much, Dronacharya Prabhu, for a very sweet class. Thank you to all the devotees for joining us. Vanchakraptibhyascha kripasindhubheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you so much, Dronacharya.
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Have a great
Krishna.
day.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol Bhakta Brad.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.